Thomas Warrick is a senior fellow at the Scowcroft Centre for Strategy and Security's Forward Defence Practice at the Atlantic Council. Previously, he was the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Counter-Terrorism Policy at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And he joins me now live from Washington, D.C. Thomas, thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World. In our correspondent's report, he says that doctors within Ukraine are forced to perform surgeries with torchlights because of the power outages. So is this turning into a major humanitarian crisis now?
Oh, yes. It's very clear that Russia's strategy is to try to wage war against Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. These are not military targets. Hospitals are protected under international law. And one of the ironies is that Putin began this war in order to try to incorporate the Ukrainian people into Russia. He found out very quickly that they did not want to be part of Russia. They wanted to remain independent Ukrainians. And the obvious strategic thing that we see here is that Putin's actions ensure that Ukrainians will fight and resist and will work even harder to try to regain their territory. So the strategic logic of Russia's campaign is at this point completely bankrupt.
Then, Thomas, when do you think all of this will end? I mean, I'm not sure if you have an answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What do you think is on President Putin's mind at this point?
Well, I think he's trying to use his military forces to achieve the level of destruction that he did in Grozny in Chechnya, in places in Georgia, where the Russian strategy was simply to destroy everything in hopes of getting the civilian population to be unable to resist. We saw the same tactics being used at Russian behest by Syrian forces, the Assad regime against the Syrian people. And so this is the only idea that he has for waging war. President Zelensky of Ukraine and Ukrainian leaders have made it clear that they will continue to fight on the battlefield. Russia will continue to see its strategic situation deteriorate. It's clear there's going to be a war through the winter and into the spring.
Right.
At this point, there's a lot of help going to Ukraine, and so it's clear that Ukrainian forces will continue to move forward.
And Thomas, in the wake of Russian missile attacks on Ukraine, the European Union now is preparing for a 9th round of sanctions against Russia. But this is what I wonder. So far, sanctions have done little to nothing in stopping Russia's attacks on Ukraine. So do you think sanctioning Russia is the right strategy going forward?
Well, sanctions are a non-military step that Europe and the United States and many other countries are taking. What this does is it deprives Russia of foreign exchange, and in particular, it deprives Russia of the ability to acquire crucial technology that it incorporates into weapons that
Thomas,
it makes
if I may,
Russia.
these sanctions have done nothing when it comes to containing Russia's attacks on Ukraine.
It's clear that Putin can continue to fire dumber weapons, less precise weapons, but he's starting to run out of the high-tech weapons on which modern warfare relies. In contrast, Ukraine is getting more and more of those weapons. And so the military balance is being helped by sanctions. But you're right, they do take time to work. No one expects that sanctions will immediately cause Putin to stop his offensive. But over time, they will degrade the ability of the Russian military to carry out these kinds of horrific attacks.
All right, Thomas Warrick, thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World. Really appreciate your taking out the time.